I'm Kimberly Davidow, contributor to the Huffington Post, and joining me today is American Ninja Warrior host Matt Iseman. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
It's my pleasure. I'm actually in my kitchen, so this is very convenient.
What is your backstory?
For those who don't know, I'm the host of American Ninja Warrior, like you mentioned, and I won Celebrity Apprentice. So most people think that's it, but there's so much more to me. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and I went to Princeton University where I played baseball and then ended up going to medical school. So I'm a doctor. I went to Columbia. I got my MD. I was practicing medicine when I ended up leaving medicine to pursue stand-up comedy. And that's something a lot of people always wonder how that happens. But basically, you know, I wasn't as passionate about medicine, but I knew I wanted to interact with people. And stand-up comedy was something that kind of came out of nowhere and ended up on television, and it's been a ride I never imagined happening, and I've enjoyed every step of it.
When did you initially muster up the guts to get yourself to Los Angeles, or did you start in New York?
The first time I did stand-up was in New York during medical school, and it was actually one of my high school friends who dragged me to an open mic, and I just thought, that looks like so much fun. He's like, you should try this. This is what you should be doing just to blow off steam from medical school. And I did stand up and I enjoyed it, but never thought it would be something I would do. And then I decided to take a break from medicine and wanted to do something to kind of clear my mind. And I thought stand-up comedy would be kind of like a reset year. And I moved out to LA just thinking I'd spend a year and a half out here and then go back to medicine and be a responsible adult. And instead, I just, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with being on the stage and being in front of people and communicating to people. And I think it's kind of what drew me to medicine in the first place, was this desire to interact with people and share stories and make them happy. And I found that through comedy and hopefully through television. And that's what's great about American Ninja Warrior is I feel like it's basically positive TV.
To see just how each of the athletes, almost their backstory of what led them to muster the guts to be able to go on a national show and to almost show a bit of like vulnerability of trying to complete these really challenging obstacle courses and try to go on to the next level. I mean, talk about being like a commentator almost to support these athletes.
Honestly, and that was one of the cool things about going on Celebrity Apprentice was, for me, the roles were reversed. And to go from being the host where on American Ninja Warrior, I'm not the one risking anything, and to be on Celebrity Apprentice and to feel that vulnerability, and then to have the opportunity, instead of telling other people's story, to tell my story and to talk about living with rheumatoid arthritis, which is something I was diagnosed with in 2002. And it was great to be on Celebrity Apprentice and have a chance to compete for a charity like the Arthritis Foundation, which was cool because it was so personal. And to me, it felt like I understand now what the competitors on American Ninja Warrior feel when they're on the starting line and kind of they put themselves out there and put their stories out there. And that's kind of what I felt I got to do on Celebrity Apprentice and sharing my story. And it's always better when you win. And so to have raised nearly $1 million for the Arthritis Foundation, and more importantly, to have raised awareness and shared my story was awesome.
Speaking about your rheumatoid arthritis, you have been very outspoken regarding your diagnosis and through your advocacy work. How has that changed your life?
Rheumatoid arthritis, for those who don't know, it's an autoimmune disease, an inflammatory form of arthritis. 1.5 million Americans are affected with it. And for me, the initial onset was physically devastating. I mean, over a year and a half, it completely transformed my body. I was 30 years old when the symptoms first started, and over a year and a half, I went from being in the best shape of my life to gaining 55 pounds to having pain in my hands and feet and to sleeping 10 to 12 hours a day and to just losing my sense of self. And so for me, when I was diagnosed, the crazy thing is when I tell people I was diagnosed with RA, which is a chronic disease, there's no cure, I was relieved. I was relieved because I knew what I was facing. and then to be able to start a treatment. For me, I'm so lucky that I've responded to the treatment, and my rheumatoid arthritis has been well controlled. And I think that's what's made me a more passionate advocate, is to know that there are people out there who don't respond to treatment or who haven't explored all their treatment options. And to feel like there are people who are being limited by this disease breaks my heart, because I know what it's like to have this disease not be controlled. And so I want people out there to know you're not alone. There are options out there. There's information out there, and to tell people nobody cares about your health as much as you do, to be your own best advocate. And I've worked with Arthritis Foundation, and I'm partnering with the group Joint Decisions. And that's one of the missions we have, is just to tell people let people know there's information and there are options out there, to empower people to become their own best advocates and to explore all their options when they're thinking about treatment, and to make sure that you're living your fullest life with RA. Because so many people, when you have a chronic disease, focus on what you can't do. And I encourage people to focus on what you can do, because again, being on Celebrity Apprentice and winning it was a great kind of symbol for me, to feel like I have this chronic disease, but it's not slowing me down.
What other exciting projects are you in the process of either kicking off or going through the motions?
So this is great. Right now I'm kicking off a campaign. It's called Matt Across America. And I've actually,
oh my God.
And I will tell you, the amount of joy I've gotten from this cardboard me is amazing. But this is something for people who are living with RA out there, who are going through infusion or curious about IV therapy. It's a way to let people know you're not alone and to share their experiences. Just take a selfie with me, and then you post it on Instagram or Facebook, and you just mention Joint Decisions RA. So they're the one who are helping with this campaign. I've partnered with them. And you hashtag Matt and me IV and contest, and you're entered. And the grand prize is to meet up with me. For me, it's so great to take something like a chronic disease and to try to turn it into something positive. And that's what I felt I did on Apprentice. And that's what I'm trying to do with Joint Decisions and with this contest that's going to be going on. American Ninja Warrior rolls on. We're doing the spinoff show Team Ninja Warrior. We're going to be shooting our 3rd season there. Season 10 of the main show is going to be coming back. I'm on Home and Family. So it's honestly, that's the other cool thing too, is feeling like my career has never been better. I've never been busier. And it's because I'm so fortunate to be able to have my rheumatoid arthritis controlled by the treatment that I'm on. And so I just want people out there to feel like there's hope. There are great treatment options out there, and encourage people to explore them all and be your own best advocate, and to know we're in this together. That's why I love sharing this story. We're all kind of in this fight together with the Arthritis Foundation, Joint Decisions, and other groups. We're all in it together.
You certainly have an empowering message. And I'm wondering, it's almost as if though people that are in the beginning process of being newly diagnosed, or those that have been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis for a significant amount of time, they can almost look to you as a mentor. So my next question for you is, do you have 5 things you wish that someone would have told you when you first started your career in acting, or as someone getting into comedy, or even becoming a doctor?
Well, one of the lessons I think for my career, for RA, for life, is no one will worry about your career, your health, the way you do. And so, being out here, I have an agent, I have a manager. With rheumatoid arthritis, I have a doctor, I have my family, but I always tell people you need to be your own best champion. And I think that's one of the key messages. I think that coming out to Hollywood, there's this idea you get an agent and you're fine. And you realize look, everyone's worried about themselves. And so always kind of I felt like I've always had to be my own best champion in my career. And the same with my health. And I've been lucky to partner with my doctor, who's been great. But that's one of the things, is be your own best champion. The other thing is, look, I love being positive. I love sharing the positive messages, but there are down days. There are days when, I'm sore, or I'm in the gym and I realize I'm not a ninja warrior, and some of it is my agent, some of it is the RA. And to realize, look, you're going to have down days, and you're going to have days where you feel like you can't go on, and to just remember, keep fighting. And that was something in Apprentice. It was a great lesson, just these little lessons you have where you're like, even when it feels impossible, if you just keep going, it's amazing. You will get to the finish line. So just to remind people to keep fighting. The other thing is, I think, find friends. I know when I started in stand-up comedy, I ended up having 2 friends who are my best friends now for 18 years since I've been in LA. And to have them and to have that feeling of family in my career was really key. And I think it's the same thing I've looked at when I've had rheumatoid arthritis. Was, for me, it was important to find people who have had this shared experience. So I think finding that sense of family has always been important. The other thing is, be nice. I think my mom, I've always felt my mom watching everything I do. And like on Apprentice, there was some backstabbing, and I think there were some people who weren't. And I always kind of imagined my mom watching the episodes and going, is she going to call me up and go, Matt, what were you thinking? So I think just try to be a good person. But the final thing, I think, is the best lesson, the best message I ever got was from my dad, who's a doctor and who's a professor at the University of Colorado, or was when I was doing residency there. And I told my dad, I'm leaving medicine to do stand-up comedy. And people always say, well, did he pass out? Did he throw a drink in your face? Did he go, what are you thinking?
Right.
And the first words out of his mouth were the advice that I think is the best advice I've ever gotten. And that is, life is short. Do what makes you happy. And I wake up every day, and when I go to Ninja Warrior, or I go to Hallmark, or when I'm advocating for RA, I feel like this is what makes me happy. And so I just encourage people to find something you're passionate about and go for it.
And my last question for you, Matt, is if there was one person that you can have lunch with, or even dinner, let's broaden our horizons here, who would it be and why?
Well, it would have been Arnold Schwarzenegger, but since I've done that now, honestly, it's funny. I think as an athlete, one of the people who has always inspired me is John Elway, who's a Denver Bronco. And one of the things I've loved about it is I look at it, and it's not from the sports perspective. What I've enjoyed more is watching him transition from the post-athletic career, from a player into a general manager of the Broncos, to winning a Super Bowl. And to me, I felt like kind of watching that career shift was me leaving medicine and moving into entertainment, and to where a lot of people, I think, felt, Elway, I think they kind of questioned why this guy just didn't ride off into the sunset or something, and you saw his competitive fire. And I felt he's kind of refocused, I think, the thing that made him great as a player into a general manager. And I felt like I'm fascinated about that, fascinated about his drive and how he's really transformed that, and to keep him as competitive and moving forward as he is. And to me, that's kind of what I felt with medicine, kind of refocusing it, how, I look at through entertainment, through comedy, I still feel like I'm helping people. And so it's, I would love to just sit down with Elway, pick his brains, talk about drive, and talk about what motivates him and what makes him tick. I think on American Ninja Warrior, I've become fascinated with the different ways that people find their motivation in life. And to me, Elway's somebody who's been a champion for such a long period of time. And I just love the positive energy in someone who's continued to be successful over time, which is what I'm hoping to do.
Matt Iseman, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Kim. Thank you.